Back in 1993, the World Foundation for Natural Science began to warn the world about the dangers of microwave technology. And today I'm glad to say that I'm joined by scientist and microwave expert Barri Trauър. Barri, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. It really is my pleasure.
I understand you have a wealth of experience with microwaves. Can you begin by explaining to us how you began your career in microwave technology?
Yes, of course. In 1960, I was in the Royal Navy, and I worked partly with the underwater bomb disposal unit, partly with microwave warfare, and some of the other time with radar. Microwaves were involved in all of those three different areas. So whilst I was in the Royal Navy, I trained in all aspects of microwave technology. And as anybody will tell you that's been in the forces, the training you receive is second to none. You practice it, you talk about it all day, you sleep it. So since 1960, I have been involved in all aspects of microwave technology. After that, a part of my job, because I had microwave expertise, was to question captured spies during the Cold War, when Russia and America were within seconds of global nuclear war. And microwaves by then were really sophisticated stealth weapons. And a part of my job was to find out from any spies who had been captured what the current knowledge was in that part of the world. Since then, I've taught advanced physics, which of course involves microwave lectures and technology. I was commissioned by the Police Federation to write the safety report on their microwave equipment twice. The last one was the updated one. And I have had a series of papers published, which are all on the internet. And currently, I travel the world free of charge, trying to advise governments, councils, people, royalty, anybody, about the sensible way to use microwaves and not the dangerous way, which involves children, animals being harmed.
Thank you. Just for the benefit of people who aren't fully aware, in what walks of life nowadays could you expect to encounter microwaves?
Microwaves are used instead of radio waves for all communication systems. Your mobile telephone or cell phone uses microwaves. The microwave towers are almost on every street corner. Along the motorway, you have the emergency services, microwave transmitters. The microwaves are now everywhere. And microwaves succeeded radio waves because microwaves will penetrate buildings, that they will go through concrete, brick, anything, whereas radio waves won't. You need an aerial on the roof for radio waves, but for microwaves you don't. They will just go straight through your house. And of course, what people don't understand is if they're going straight through your house, they're also going straight through you.
And is that dangerous? We're told by the government that they're safe. Is there scientific proof to show that they're not safe?
There are some 8,300 papers, to my knowledge, going back to 1971, where it was proven in government documents that low-level microwaves will cause injury. The main symptom for microwave sickness, it is usually a suppression of the immune system first, followed by neurological problems where the brain is being affected, depression, suicidal tendencies. you will have more colds, more coughs, longer colds, longer coughs. And then at the other end of the line, if you are unfortunate, lymphoblastic leukemia or something in that area. It affects, in order of people, it is always the embryo and children who are affected most seriously and first, followed by women, without being sexist, because they have very complicated hormonal systems that are affected by microwave technology. Then usually the sick and the elderly, and finally fit young men. So there is in fact an established pattern for microwave sickness.
And you mentioned cancers. Are we seeing an increase in the number of cancers?
Oh yes,
nowadays?
and going back to your previous question, there is absolute proof. There are, to my knowledge, to date, there are 4 High Court judgments proving that low-level microwaves will cause cancer. There are 12 epidemiological studies showing that people who live around transmitters, particularly within 500 metres, will get more cancer, more neurological and psychiatric illnesses than people who don't. And there are, to my knowledge, 20 if you count my latest one, there are 19 published legal judgments, not high courts, but legal judgments from mayors, councils, magistrates, ordering transmitters to be taken down where it is believed that they have caused cancer to the local population. So there is lots of proof, and 2 of the epidemiological studies, and by that I mean, for anyone who's not sure of the word, a study for about 10 years, studying all of the doctors' records, all of the populations. 2 of them were carried out by the industry itself on its own product. And its own conclusion was that these microwaves can cause cancer. So there is plenty of proof, government proof, legal proof, research proof. There is enough proof as to win high court cases, and people are.
Can I just clarify that? The industry's own research has shown that their product, mobile phones, Wi-Fi, transmitters, cause cancer.
Oh, absolutely. It's the most famous one was the ECLOG, known as the ECLOG report, and their conclusion, it was carried out by T-Mobile, and their conclusion was that these microwaves can trigger the cancer promoters and cancer initiators in the body. And the industry's, one of the industry's other research projects showed that microwaves affected children to the point where children would lose sleep because they can activate the brain. The microwaves can accelerate and activate the brain. And children would lose sleep. And published research in Scientific American Mind actually shows that when children lose sleep, they can become depressed and suicidal very, very quickly. In fact, I can tell you one story, if I may.
Yes,
when I was in South Africa speaking, a teacher of 30 years, and this is on the internet, a teacher of 30 years was the speaker behind me. And he said that in South Africa, he said childhood suicides were unknown. Misbehaviour to the extent of severe aggression was unknown in South Africa. And he said as soon as the transmitter went up near his school, they started to have psychiatric problems with the children. And he said, today, he said, all of my children, all 30 in my class, are now on Ritalin for poor behaviour. The whole class is on Ritalin.
That's incredible.
Absolutely.
I'm almost speechless. So we have the industry admitting that their technology is causing disease.
Cancer.
We're
And
seeing
illnesses, yes.
we're seeing children being effective in hyperactivity.
Yes.
Why then do we still have this technology? What's stopping it being removed?
The industry is believed to be earning some 3 trillion United States dollars a year. $3,000 billion a year. And it is my opinion, I will have an opinion because it protects you legally, it is my opinion that when you have that amount of money coming in, I mean, just imagine on a daily basis how much is flowing in.
Yeah.
You have the ability to not only hire Land Rovers full of top lawyers who can argue cases for you, you can buy governments and you can threaten people with all sorts of things because you have so much power. And the allies of the industry are the secret services of the governments, hence the governments. Because with this technology, not only can the secret services of any country listen to every single thing you are saying through your cell phone, but they can also follow everywhere you go. So they know everywhere you go and everything you are saying, and they can monitor the words of every single meeting that you sit down at.
You're not seriously telling me that my government is following everybody's movements?
They have the ability to. I do know that every single phone call is recorded and logged.
Every phone call?
Every single mobile phone call is recorded. Every single one. They have, whether they are interested in you, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whether they want you followed, I don't know. But they have the ability to do it. So if you have, let's just say you have people who legally and rightfully oppose government policy, like me.
Yeah.
What they can do is they can have everywhere you go followed, every single phone call recorded, they can monitor everybody you talk to, so they will know your whole operation, which gives them an advantage if they want to clamp down on you.
This sounds worse than the Watergate scandal.
Well, it is. So, I mean, you have the secret services, you have the money, the government themselves love this system because it allows them to snoop on the people, and you have the most powerful industry on the planet. So you can see why people are resisting cutting down the power and cutting down what they're doing. And it's probably worth, we know 3% of populations always become seriously ill from microbes. It may be worth the money and the advantages to the government to lose 3% of the populations for the benefits that they are going to get.
3% of the population of the UK must be quite a large number.
Well, it's about 1.8 million.
So 1.8 million people will be sacrificed so that they can snoop on everyone and take control of...
And taking the money, I mean a colossal amount of money. If you think just the population of the UK, 60 million people, and we know we have 60 million cell phones. Imagine each cell phone, the bill is just £1 a day.
Yeah.
That's £60 million somebody is making a day, and the bills will be much higher than that. I mean,
Yes.
the money and the power you get from this, is phenomenal. And in fact, if we go back 15 years, hypothetically, if we could go back 15 years, if the government said, in any country, if the government said, we are going to make it law that every single person carries a little tiny box in their pocket, we are going to listen to every single conversation you have, every business meeting, every consultant meeting in a doctor's surgery, every single word you say, we are going to record. Whether your phone is on or off, we have the ability to record. We're also going to monitor everywhere you go. So we are going to know everything you say and everywhere you go. But there is an advantage. Apart from paying us, which you won't like, you do have the ability to push a few buttons and talk to somebody. We will, of course, listen to it. There would have been riots in the streets to say, we are not having this. But the marketing was so clever that it's gone out and people are paying them to do this. I mean, you must admire them, for the cleverness that it's gone out. But this is the problem. And of course, they're addictive.
Chemically addictive? Do they cause the release of hormones in the body?
They are electrically... The average person works on the lowest level of energy. And if there is a telephone box half a mile down the road and you have a cell phone in your pocket, the average person will pull out the cell phone and say, well, this one won't hurt me, dong, 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 hello, Mr. Smith, rather than walk down the road. Yeah. So there is that. You become more lazy. The other addiction is that there are numerous experiments. I have pages upon pages of experiments where the microwaves going into the brain, they accelerate and, if you like, increase the natural rhythms of the brain. It's called entrainment. They actually accelerate the brain and excite the brain. And we know that a child that uses a cell phone for just 2 minutes, the brain is accelerated and not back to normal for 2 hours, around 2 hours afterwards. And that's just for 2 minutes. Now you imagine a child in a playground at a school that spends 20 minutes on the cell phone. The brain is not going to be in a learning state for the rest of that period of the day in the classes. The child is probably going to be hyperactive, misbehave.
And a general pain.
And a general pain, yep.
And is that something you can see on EEG?
Oh, yes.
You see a change in the brain waves?
It is guaranteed. I have pages upon pages of this type of experiment. It's so easy to do that most people in this research area have done it many, many times. And anybody can do this. Just don't expose your brain to any microwave cell phones or anything for a couple of hours. Take an EEG, take one from your heart, an ECG at the same time. Make a call for 10 minutes and take another one. And then see how long it takes your brain to come back to normal. You'll be absolutely amazed. The delta, theta, alpha, beta brainwaves, you'll be amazed how long it takes them to come back to a normal state.
Oh, this technology is truly frightening. Really frightening.
Well, this is why it's microwave weapons were introduced from the 1950s, 60s, 70s to the present day. And this is another level of proof. They are so effective. If you're not in a hurry to get rid of somebody, they are so effective as a stealth weapon to beam somebody. And this has been done many times, and it's recorded. You can beam people you don't like as a government to give them cancer, breast cancers, neurological illnesses. You can choose what you want them to get.
You can choose?
Oh, you can choose. You can choose which pulse frequency you want to affect the brain with. You can choose the level of microwave irradiation and the speed that you want them to become ill.
Yeah.
It really is a perfect stealth weapon, and all you need to do is rent a house opposite someone you want to get rid of, or a group of people you want to get rid of, and just beam them. The most famous case during the Cold War was the Moscow embassy siege, where in Moscow they beamed the entire American embassy and gave them cancer.
Did they cause cancers in all the staff, or in a lot of the staff? Or?
Most of the staff, most of the children got leukemia, the women developed breast cancer, the gentlemen developed cancers. I think after about 18 months the entire staff was changed, and then the following 18 months the entire staff was changed again. And by that time people realised what was going on, and they found that they were being irradiated by microwaves. And rather than say, oh, isn't this disgusting, what have we sunk to, they thought, isn't this wonderful, let's develop this for ourselves. And governments today are still perfecting microwave warfare.
Still to this day they're working on the weaponry?
Still to this day, 2010, they are still perfecting the pulse frequencies. It's got very, very sophisticated. The pulse frequencies, the how long they can transmit, whether it can be one country to another, bouncing the microwaves off the ionosphere, so you don't even have to be in the same country.
Bouncing the microwaves off the ionosphere, a lot of people won't have heard of this technology. You're talking about the HAARP.
If you have a super transmitter, the microwaves, if you beam them, it's only a simple basic trigonometry.
Yeah.
But let's say I want to bring economic ruin to a country that grows all of the world's wheat.
Right.
Okay. All I have to do is beam microwaves up to the ionosphere, which is like an invisible cloud around the planet, an ion cloud around the planet. The microwaves going up at a set angle will reflect off down onto this country. And if I continuously beam the wheat in this field, or the cattle, or the sheep, I can reduce the immune system of the plants so that they won't be healthy and they will die, and I can stunt their growth, and I can bring economic ruin to that country. I can harm all of the animals, the cows, the sheep. It's so easy to do. You only have to push a button, and you can bring economic ruin to a country.
Which countries have this technology already available? Is it all the countries in the world, or just a couple of them?
It may not be a wise
thing
to say on a live broadcast, but you can take my word for it that I know at least 2 super transmitters in the world that have this capability, and there are probably more in areas that I do not have access to and I cannot go to. But I know there are at least 2.
I need to just go back a little bit now.
Of course, yeah.
Back to your early days in the military.
Mm-hmm.
This technology was used by the British government?
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I can see where you're going.
It was used by the British government against terrorist groups?
We have 8,300 papers. I have knowledge of 2,300 myself. And what the governments found was that you could induce, by changing the pulse frequency, like Morse code, of the microwaves going into the brain and interfering with the brain. By specializing on the pulse frequency, you could induce psychiatric illnesses to the point where a psychiatrist could not tell if it is a genuine psychiatric illness or an induced psychiatric illness. So what you can do, theoretically, is you can target an individual's brain. They may have auditory hallucinations where they hear things, which is actually quite common with microwaves, or show signs of schizophrenia. For instance, 6.6 pulses a second can induce severe sexual aggression in men. So you could induce somebody to commit a really horrific sexual rape. So technically what you could do is have somebody committed to a psychiatric hospital or a jail for a crime just by somebody saying that they had a psychiatric problem whereby they didn't. Yeah. There is that. You can target other parts of people's bodies. You can target the heart and cause heart seizures. You can target the lungs and cause bleeding. You can target, if you're clever enough, some of the essential glands in the body that control all of the hormonal systems. So if you have dissidents or people that you don't like as a government, it's very, very easy these days to irradiate them and either have them wind up in jail or in a psychiatric hospital. And of course, there is no comeback on you.
Yeah. Now, these weapons that the governments have and are still using, are they more powerful than, for example, the Wi-Fi I might have in my front room, or my cordless phone, or a mobile phone transmitter?
No, in fact, they're actually, the power is slightly less.
Less?
The power is slightly less. The difference is, where you might use Wi-Fi, you might go in after work and do a couple of hours and then leave. And the Wi-Fi is going out in all directions. Here, they are targeting you probably with a beam. And
right.
It is on you all day. It can follow you everywhere you go, and it can target you when you're asleep as well. So you're really getting a concentrated dose. It's a bit like putting the light on in your house and sitting with a light, or have somebody follow you with a searchlight and beaming the searchlight on you all the time. So there is a difference between that. But in fact, the power can be less. It just takes longer.
So I would imagine then that the devices we have in our houses nowadays are extremely dangerous.
Not all of the research, because there is research that has been carried out where they have failed to show it is dangerous. But we do have documentary proof from the governments, one specific paper from the government that lists all of the illnesses that you can get from microwave sickness, including severe neurological disorders. We have a government document that actually says this needs to be kept secret from the Western governments because it will affect the efficiency of the military, the weapons industry, and it will also affect industrial profit.
We have the government telling us that
This
technology is dangerous?
This is the United States Defense Intelligence Agency advising the Western governments to keep this secret so that they can protect industrial profit and military functions. Because, I mean, if you're in the military and a lot of people do start developing tumours, you could start suing because the equipment you're using is not safe. So to avoid that and to protect the industrial profit, they put this document out.
Going back a little bit to children now, if we can just move away from the military.
We'll move away
aspect.
from the
Move away
military
from the
onto
military
children.
for a while. Why are children more at risk? Are they more at risk?
Yeah, as I said earlier, that it's always the children that suffer first. A lot of people make the mistake in believing that children are small adults. And unlike medication, where you have an adult dose and a children's dose, with microwaves, there is the adult dose, but there is no known safe dose of microwave irradiation anywhere in the world published for a child. And the reason is, and embryos are a special case after this, if you wish to ask about embryos. If we look at the average infant in school, or small child in school, and I'll only concentrate on just a couple of areas of the body.
Yeah.
The immune system of a child has soft bones, so the microwaves penetrate the bones, no trouble at all. And microwaves are attracted to water, which is most of what bone marrow is. The immune system of a child takes 18 years to develop. And the first thing we know from microwave irradiation is that it attacks the immune system. So with children who are not small adults, they are neurologically and physiologically immature adults. The immune system of children is being damaged before it is anywhere near up and running. The nervous system that runs through the body has 122 layers of protein. There's a system of protein synthesis that lays 122 layers around the nervous system. It takes 22 years for this to fully develop. So all through a child's development, what you have is the microwaves affecting the protein synthesis of this system. Now, goodness only knows what's going to happen. We are probably going to get an epidemic of the muscular dystrophy type diseases later on in life for these children because of a damaged myelin sheath or insulating coating around their nervous systems. The other, what I think is the most serious aspect of a child's development, excuse me, there are experiments that show the ovarian follicles in young girls. Now, unlike boys who produce sperms as and when they're required on a daily basis, young girls are born with all of the 400 eggs they are going to need to develop into fully blown eggs and children. Now, we know that microwaves affect the ovarian follicles and can affect the ovarian eggs. We know that the microwaves, there are papers on this, can cause genetic damage. If you think of a young girl at school, she's sitting here and she has the Wi-Fi set transmitting straight through the uterus into the ovaries. Now, if the young girl damages the ovarian eggs, and we're not going to know this for another 15 years if the ovarian eggs are damaged, these are irreparable. They can never ever be repaired. The mitochondrial DNA in girls is irreparable. So when that girl, if she has a daughter, that daughter will carry the genetic damage that has been caused by the microwaves. And when she has a daughter, that daughter will carry the same disease, and her daughter, and her daughter. So we are now not saying we're risking this generation, we are risking the future generations of all of the children in the world from genetic damage. And that's a scary prospect.